The night was quiet inside the space station, a place so large that even 1,000 people could walk its corridors and never meet each other. The hum of the engines filled the air like a constant heartbeat, and the glow of dying stars outside the window gave everything a soft red color. Far away from the busy areas where captains and warriors walked, there was another part of the station, a forgotten side where only one man worked. He was not a soldier, not a leader, not even an engineer. He was a janitor. His name did not matter to the important ones on the station. To them, he was invisible, just a human who swept floors, carried trash, and polished the walls until they shone. Yet he worked every night, pushing his cart, whistling sometimes to keep himself awake. Humans were rare here. Most aliens looked at humans as weak, small, soft beings who could not fight or lead. That was why the janitor had this job. A job no one else cared about, but he did it with quiet patience. On this night, he was cleaning near the abandoned cargo bay. Nobody used that section anymore. Old crates stood like skeletons stacked in corners. Dust floated in the air. Lights flickered as if they were tired. The janitor did not like this part of the station. It felt strange, like the walls were hiding secrets. Still, he kept sweeping, his broom scratching softly against the metal floor. Then he froze, somewhere in the shadows. Past the broken crates, he heard something, a sound that was not the hum of the station. It was faint, weak, almost like scratching. Then came a tiny cry. The janitor frowned. It could not be a machine. It sounded alive. He left his cart behind and slowly stepped forward. His shoes clicked on the floor. The sound came again, a high-pitched whimper. He reached a corner where the light did not reach. Darkness spread like a curtain. He bent down, whispering softly. "Hello, is someone there?" His voice echoed. For a moment there was silence. Then two faint eyes glimmered in the dark. The janitor's heart raced. He had seen many aliens on this station, but never eyes like these. They glowed faintly. Like burning embers under ash, he took another step, and then he saw it. A small creature curled behind the crates. Its body shimmered faintly, scales shining under the weak light. Tiny wings folded against its back. It was no bigger than a cat, but its head, its shape, its sharp little claws left no doubt it was a dragon. The janitor gasped. Dragons were the kind of stories humans told to children. Legends of fire and wings, yet here on an alien station floating above a dying star, a real one was lying before him, weak and trembling. The baby dragon let out a small hiss, but it was not threatening. It was frightened. The janitor crouched, raising both hands to show he meant no harm. "Easy there, little one," he whispered. His voice was calm, softer than the sound of his broom. The dragon blinked, watching him with sharp, glowing eyes. Then it tried to move, but its tiny claws slipped. It looked hungry, desperate. The janitor looked around, making sure nobody else was there. If the guards found this creature, they would call it dangerous. They would kill it or lock it away. He felt a strange pull in his chest. Maybe it was pity. Maybe it was something deeper. He could not walk away. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of dry bread he had saved from his shift. He placed it gently on the floor. The dragon sniffed, then crawled forward slowly. Its little wings trembled, its nose touched the bread, and it nibbled for the first time. The janitor smiled. "That's it, little one. You're safe." Then something happened that made him freeze again. The dragon stopped eating, lifted its head, and opened its mouth. A sound came out, broken, rough, but clear enough. One single human word. "Help!" The janitor's eyes widened, his breath caught in his throat. He looked at the creature in disbelief. Did he really hear that? A dragon, a baby dragon speaking his language. The creature's voice cracked again, softer this time. "Help!" The janitor sat back on his heels. His heart pounded in his chest. This was no ordinary creature. This was something intelligent, something lost, and something that wanted to be understood. He felt his life shift in that moment. The empty, lonely nights of sweeping floors were gone. He had found something hidden, something that could change everything. Yet as he leaned closer, whispering back to the dragon, he did not notice what was happening in the deeper shadows behind him, a shadow larger than any crate, a shadow that stretched across the wall like wings. The janitor thought he was alone with the baby, but he was wrong. Something else was there, waiting, watching, silent. And so the story began, with a simple human janitor, a forgotten corner of the galaxy, and the cry of a baby dragon that should not have been there, a cry that would pull him into a secret greater than anything he had ever imagined. The janitor sat on the cold metal floor, his hands trembling slightly. The baby dragon's glowing eyes stared at him, and the single word it had spoken still echoed in his head: help. He could not believe it. A creature out of human myth, found in a dusty cargo bay of an alien station, asking him for help. For a moment he wondered if he was dreaming. Maybe he had worked too many long shifts. Maybe the humming of the engines and the endless sweeping had finally cracked his mind. But the dragon's tiny chest rose and fell. Its wings shivered with each breath, and when it blinked, he saw fear inside those bright eyes. No dream could feel this real. The janitor lowered his voice. "You can speak?" he asked softly. The dragon tilted its head, trying to copy the sound. It opened its mouth again, and after a painful pause, it said, "Sp-eek." The sound was broken, like glass under pressure, but it was a word. The janitor's heart thudded. He remembered his own childhood back on Earth, when he had been ignored by teachers, mocked by others, called slow because he struggled to learn. The baby dragon's voice reminded him of his own voice long ago, small and uncertain, reaching out. Desperate to be heard. "Okay," he whispered. "I'll help you." He leaned closer. Not caring if anyone saw, he pointed to himself and said, "Human." Then he pointed at the dragon, tilting his head in question. The dragon blinked, then gave a little cough, a tiny puff of smoke drifting from its nose. It tried, its voice breaking again. "Who, man?" The janitor laughed softly, but it was not unkind. He shook his head gently. No. "Me human?" He touched his chest again. "Human." The dragon tried again. "Who, man?" This time it was clear, like a spark of light breaking through darkness. The janitor's smile widened. He tapped the floor softly and said, "Safe." The dragon tilted its head, repeating the strange new sound. "Safe." The janitor nodded with excitement. He felt something stir in him, something he had not felt in years: purpose. He was not just a janitor in this moment. He was a teacher, a guide. Night after night he returned, always when the station grew quiet, when the guards walked elsewhere. Each time the baby dragon waited in the shadows. Each time its glowing eyes lit up the moment it saw him. He brought crumbs of food, small bottles of water, and most important of all, he brought words. He kept them simple. He would point at things and speak slowly. Food, friend, safe. The dragon would try, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding, but always eager. And with every word it learned, the janitor felt his heart grow lighter. He had spent his life cleaning the mess of others, unseen, unvalued, but now, here in this quiet corner of the galaxy, he was changing something important. One evening, as the janitor whispered another lesson, he noticed something strange. The baby dragon was not just repeating words. It was listening. It tilted its head the way a child might, studying his face, catching every movement of his mouth. Every time he corrected, it seemed to understand faster. Its eyes burned not with hunger anymore, but with curiosity. "You're smart, aren't you?" he whispered. The dragon hissed softly, almost like laughter. Then to his shock, it said, "Smart." The janitor froze, then laughed quietly, covering his mouth so no one outside the cargo bay could hear. But with joy came a shadow of fear. The station was full of rumors. He had overheard soldiers in the mess hall whispering about a dangerous creature. Something escaped, something the higher officers wanted destroyed. His chest tightened. He knew at once they were speaking about the baby dragon. That night, when he came back, he moved carefully, looking over his shoulder. His broom squeaked in its cart, but no one stopped him. Still, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. The moment he stepped inside the cargo bay, he swore he saw a shape flicker at the edge of his vision. Something big, something silent. But when he turned, there was nothing, only shadows and old crates. The baby dragon crawled toward him, letting out a weak cry. The janitor quickly shook off his fear. He crouched, whispering, "It's okay, little one. We're safe here," the dragon repeated softly. "Safe." Then with a proud look it added, "Friend." The janitor froze. His throat tightened. That word had not been part of tonight's lesson. The dragon had remembered it on its own, not just repeated but used it. His heart pounded with both wonder and dread. If this baby could already learn and understand at this speed, what else could it do? And more importantly, who else knew it was here? He touched the dragon's head gently, feeling the warm scales under his rough hands. "We'll keep this secret, you and me," he whispered. The dragon blinked slowly, as if it understood. Then it whispered back, almost perfectly, "Secret." The janitor smiled weakly, but he could not shake the unease growing in his chest. He thought they were alone, that this was just their hidden world of words and whispers. But deep in the shadows, where even the flickering lights could not reach, something stirred, a breath heavier than his. Slower, full of heat, the janitor felt a chill on his skin. The dragon tilted its head, looking behind him, but he was too busy smiling at his progress to notice, too busy teaching to realize that someone else was listening, and that someone was far more powerful than the little creature at his feet. The janitor returned to the forgotten cargo bay night after night. Each time he walked the long, empty halls of the space station, his cart rattling softly behind him, each time his heart beat faster, wondering if the dragon would still be there. And every time he opened the creaking door, the baby dragon's glowing eyes lit up the shadows as if it had been waiting just for him. The creature was growing not in size but in spirit. Where before it had curled in fear, now it crawled forward with excitement. It no longer hissed when he came close. Instead, it gave a sound almost like a chirp, a greeting. The janitor found himself smiling more than he had in years. Teaching words became their secret game. He kept them simple. He would point, speak, then wait. Sometimes the dragon would mimic him perfectly. Other times the sound came out broken and strange. Still, it always tried. Its eyes burned with the hunger to learn. One night he pointed at himself again. "Human," he said. The dragon repeated, "Huh, man." He nodded proudly. Then he pointed at the dragon. "Dragon." The baby blinked, tilted its head, and made a strange rumbling noise before saying slowly, "Draw." The janitor laughed softly. "Yes, that's you, dragon." He touched the floor gently. "Safe." The dragon tapped the floor with its claw and whispered, "Safe." Then it raised its little wings and said another word without being taught. "Friend." The janitor froze, his chest tightened. That single word was not just a copy. It was meaning, it was choice. The dragon had remembered and decided to use it. He felt warmth spread through him, a connection deeper than he expected. Still, he knew this was dangerous. If anyone found out he was hiding the creature, the guards would come. They would see only a threat, not a child, not a mind trying to grow. So he kept teaching in whispers, keeping their lessons short, always listening for footsteps. The dragon learned faster with each night. It studied his lips, the way his jaw moved, the way sound shaped when he said food. It would sniff the air and repeat, "Food." When he said water, it would tilt its head and croak, "Wah." Soon, its words were no longer broken pieces, but whole, fragile things like glass balancing on the edge of a table. One evening he brought a small mirror. It was cracked, thrown away by someone richer than him. He placed it on the ground, pointing. "Me," he said, touching his reflection. "Human." The dragon crawled close, staring at its own face in the glass. Its scales shone faintly like sparks caught in moonlight. It tapped the mirror with one claw, then whispered, "Dragon!" The janitor's eyes widened. It had understood the reflection. It had named itself. His breath caught. This was not just learning words. This was thought. This was awareness. But joy carried weight. He began to worry. What if the dragon spoke when someone else was near? What if it cried out in a word the wrong ears could understand? He reminded the creature again and again, "Secret," and the dragon whispered back, "Secret," as if swearing an oath. The janitor could not explain why he cared so much. Maybe because no one had ever taught him with patience when he was young. Maybe because he had lived invisible for so long, sweeping floors nobody cared about, and now finally someone saw him, even if that someone was a small dragon hiding in the shadows. But the station itself was restless. He began to notice patrols moving closer, guards whispering about heat signatures detected in the cargo bay, machines checking air vents for strange gases. The dragon's tiny body gave off warmth that should not exist here. He knew they were searching, even if they did not say it aloud. One night during their lesson, the janitor paused. He felt it again. The sense of being watched, the dragon noticed too. Its eyes flicked to the shadows behind the crates. Its small body went tense, wings pressed tight against its back. The janitor turned, but there was nothing. Only darkness. Still, his skin prickled. He whispered, "We're safe," trying to calm them both. The dragon repeated, "Safe," but its voice shook. Then, as if to chase away fear, the janitor spoke again, pointing to his chest. "Friend." The dragon tilted its head, then crawled closer and touched its nose against his hand. It whispered the word back, but this time the sound was not broken, not weak. It was clear, almost strong. Friend, the janitor swallowed hard. His throat felt tight. This was more than language. It was trust, it was bond, and in that moment, he understood something frightening. If the dragon trusted him this much, if it could learn and understand this fast, then it was not only a child, it was a future someone else was listening to from the shadows, a future someone else might want to end before it began. The janitor leaned closer, whispering one last word for the night. Promise. The dragon blinked. Confused at first, then after a long pause, it whispered back. Promise. The janitor smiled weakly, but he did not see the massive outline shifting deeper in the dark, a pair of eyes glowing brighter than the baby's. Watching, waiting, learning as well. The lessons had begun, but the real test was only just ahead. The station was not the same anymore, at least not to the janitor. Every corridor he walked, every echo of boots on the metal floors, every flicker of lights made him uneasy. For weeks he had been hiding the baby dragon in the old cargo bay, teaching it words in secret, sharing food and water. But now the whispers had begun. Soldiers in the mess hall spoke in low voices. Something dangerous is loose, they said. A creature? The janitor knew exactly what they were talking about. He pushed his cart as usual, sweeping and cleaning as if nothing had changed. His body moved out of habit, but his ears were sharp, listening to every rumor. Scanners picked up heat signatures, one alien guard grumbled. Whatever it is, it's warm-blooded, small, but dangerous, another replied. The captain says if we find it, we burn it. No questions. The janitor kept his face calm, but inside his chest his heart was pounding. They were hunting his secret. That night he slipped back into the cargo bay. The door creaked as always, and in the shadows the baby dragon stirred. Its glowing eyes lit up when it saw him. It made a sound between a chirp and a hiss, then crawled forward. Friend, it whispered. The janitor let out a long breath, kneeling to touch its scaled head. I'm here, he said softly, but we have to be careful now. They're searching. The dragon tilted its head. Trying to understand, he tapped his lips and whispered. Secret, the baby repeated. Secret. The janitor nodded, but even as he smiled, he felt the heavy weight of danger pressing in. Their lessons continued, but now his ears were always tuned to the silence outside the door. Every thud of distant boots made him tense. Every hum of the station's vents felt too loud. He taught the dragon new words: hide, quiet, safe. But the dragon often looked at him with confusion. Its childlike mind wanted to play, to learn, to talk, not to hide. One evening, as he crouched teaching it the word quiet, the lights flickered overhead. His breath caught, he froze, listening. The dragon too went still, its wings folded tight. The janitor heard it then. Faint but certain, footsteps, slow and heavy, stopping just outside the cargo bay. His heart leapt into his throat. He motioned quickly with a finger to his lips. Quiet, he whispered. The dragon repeated softly, Quiet. The footsteps lingered. Whoever it was stood outside, waiting, listening. The janitor did not move, sweat sliding down the back of his neck. Finally the sound faded, drifting away into the distant halls. Only then did he breathe again. The dragon crawled close, touching his hand with its nose. Safe, it whispered. The janitor forced a smile. Yes, safe. But only if we stay hidden. But in his mind, he knew the truth. Someone had been listening, someone was close. Days passed like this. With tension growing sharper, patrols increased. Scanners beeped louder in the halls and rumors spread faster. The creature leaves heat marks, one soldier said. But when we search, nothing is there, another muttered. Maybe it's hiding in the old sections, we'll find it soon. The janitor's chest grew tight with fear. Each night he told himself it would be the last time he visited. But each night he returned anyway, drawn by the dragon's glowing eyes and the soft, broken words it spoke. He could not abandon it. Not when it trusted him. Then came the night when everything changed. He was teaching the dragon the word promise, when suddenly the dragon's eyes flicked past him, its body tensed, wings shivering. The janitor turned, expecting nothing but crates and shadows, but this time, he saw it, a shape, massive and still, deeper in the dark. For a second he thought it was part of the wall, but then he saw the glimmer, two enormous eyes, burning brighter than the baby's, staring at him without blinking. His blood ran cold, he did not move, his breath came short. The dragon at his feet made a soft sound, almost a cry but not of fear. It was recognition. The janitor's heart pounded. The baby whispered one word he had not taught tonight. Mother. The janitor nearly fell backward. The massive shadow shifted, wings folding tight against the roof, claws scraping softly against metal. The dragon mother had been there all along, hiding in silence, watching every word, every lesson, every piece of bread he had shared with her child. The janitor could not speak. His throat was dry, his hands shook. The baby dragon pressed close to him, unafraid, whispering again, Mother, friend. The mother's burning eyes narrowed. The air grew hot. The janitor felt it on his skin like standing near a furnace. His mind screamed to run, to flee before she struck him down. But his body would not move. He was trapped between a child who trusted him and a mother who could end his life in one breath. Silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. The janitor whispered weakly, Safe. His voice trembled. The baby dragon repeated stronger, Safe. Friend? The mother shifted again, lowering her massive head. Her eyes locked with the janitor's, searching, testing. He swallowed hard. His heart thundered so loud he thought it would echo through the bay, and then, to his shock, the great dragon did not attack. She leaned closer, her breath hot enough to sting his face, and in a voice deeper than any sound he had ever heard. She spoke a single word. Why? The janitor's lips parted, but no answer came. He had been preparing to teach a baby, not to stand before a mother who could crush him. The lesson was over. The real test had begun. The janitor did not sleep that night, not even for a minute. The memory of those burning eyes haunted him. He kept replaying the moment when the mother dragon revealed herself, towering in silence, her breath like fire, her voice echoing a single word. Why, he had no answer then, not one that made sense. And now the question rattled in his head like a stone in a jar. The next evening, when his shift ended, he told himself he would not return to the cargo bay. He told himself it was too dangerous, that he had pushed his luck far enough. Yet his feet betrayed him. They carried him down the quiet halls, past the flickering lights, toward the creaking door. When he opened it, the baby dragon rushed forward with a sound that was almost a laugh. Friend, it said proudly. The janitor knelt, brushing his hand over its warm scales, his chest tightened with both fear and affection. You shouldn't say that so loudly, he whispered. Others might hear. The baby blinked its glowing eyes and tilted its head. Then it whispered, softer this time. Friend? Safe. The janitor smiled despite himself. He wanted to believe those words, but the memory of the mother's eyes made his hands shake. He glanced around the bay, looking for her, but the shadows were empty. Only the crate stood silent. For a moment he wondered if he had imagined her. But no, the heat he had felt, the rumble of her voice, it had been real. Somewhere in the deeper dark she was watching still. The lessons continued, he pointed to himself. Human, the dragon repeated. Human. Then he pointed at the creature. Dragon, it repeated proudly. Dragon. The janitor laughed softly. Good. You're learning faster every day. But tonight something was different. The baby dragon did not stop at simple words. It tried more. It struggled, wings twitching, eyes burning with focus. The janitor frowned. Easy now, he whispered. One word at a time, then it happened. The dragon opened its mouth, and instead of a broken word, a full sentence came out, its voice cracked. But the meaning was clear. I trust you. The janitor froze, his heart skipped. He stared at the creature in disbelief. It had not copied, it had not repeated. It had spoken its own thought. His throat tightened, his eyes burned. He had not expected this. He had thought it might take years. He had thought it might never happen. Yet here, in a dusty, forgotten bay, a baby dragon had spoken trust into the world. The janitor laughed, the sound bursting out of him. He laughed until his sides hurt. You trust me, he whispered, a janitor. Just a janitor. He wiped his eyes, his voice breaking. You have no idea what that means to me. The baby dragon tilted its head, confused by his reaction, but then it chirped softly, repeating again, stronger this time. Trust you. The janitor felt something inside him change. For years he had walked invisible, unseen, his work unappreciated, his existence ignored. But here was a creature out of legend, a being of scales and fire, saying it trusted him. He was no longer invisible. He laughed again, softer now. You're going to change everything, he whispered. Do you know that? The dragon blinked slowly, its glowing eyes filled with something that looked almost like pride. But in his joy he forgot. He forgot the silence pressing around him. He forgot the heat lingering in the corners of the bay. He forgot the shadow that never truly left. Because behind him, unseen, the mother dragon moved, her vast body blending with the dark. Her eyes burning brighter, she had heard every word. She had heard her child speak its first true sentence. And she had seen the human's joy. The janitor, still smiling, still laughing softly, did not notice at first. Not until the air grew hotter, pressing against his skin. Not until the ground seemed to tremble with each shift of her weight. Then he stopped. His smile faded. He turned slowly, his eyes widened, and there she was, no longer hiding. She filled the space, her wings folding tight, her body coiled like a storm ready to strike. Her eyes locked on him, flames reflected in her gaze. The janitor's mouth went dry. He wanted to speak, but no words came. His chest tightened with fear. The baby dragon turned, looked up at its mother, and whispered again. "Friend." The mother did not move. Her eyes narrowed. She lowered her head until her massive snout was only a breath away from the janitor. He felt the heat of her breath burn his skin. His knees wanted to buckle. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But he could not. He was trapped. The silence stretched, and then her voice came, deep rumbling, shaking the air. "You taught my child," she said. Her tone was not anger, not yet, but it was heavy with power. "You gave words." The janitor swallowed, forcing himself to speak. His voice was a whisper, trembling but steady. "I didn't mean harm," he said. I only wanted it not to be alone." The baby pressed against his hand, looking at its mother. "Safe," it said. "Trust." The mother's eyes shifted from the child to the human. Her breath filled the air, hot and suffocating. She studied him, silence weighing heavier than any shout. The janitor held her gaze, even though every nerve in his body begged him to look away. Finally, he whispered, "Because no one deserves to be alone." The mother's head tilted slightly. Her eyes narrowed, then for the first time, her massive body eased just a little. The fire in her gaze softened but did not vanish. The baby chirped again. "Friend, human friend." The mother closed her eyes for a long moment. Her chest rose and fell with a deep, thunderous breath, then she opened them again, staring at the janitor, and though her voice was still like thunder, it carried something new, not anger, but something closer to curiosity. "Perhaps," she rumbled. "We shall see." The janitor let out a shaky breath, his knees weak. He had survived. But he knew this was not the end. This was only the beginning. The janitor's hands were still trembling when he returned the next night. All through the day he had replayed the encounter in his mind. The burning eyes, the hot breath, the thunder of the mother dragon's voice. "Perhaps. We shall see." The words haunted him. They were not a promise, not a threat, but something far heavier. A judgment waiting to fall. He almost didn't come back. His body begged him to stay away, to keep his head down, to go on sweeping floors and pretending the world was simple. But his heart dragged him forward. He could not abandon the baby dragon, not now. Not after hearing its first sentence. Not after hearing it call him friend. When he pushed open the creaking cargo bay door, the air was hotter than usual. The shadows seemed alive, shifting, bending with something massive hidden inside. The baby dragon ran to him with a joyful chirp. "Friend," it said, its wings fluttered. Its glowing eyes brightened. The janitor smiled weakly, crouching to meet it. "Hey, little one," he whispered, but then he froze. A low growl rumbled from the darkness. The sound was deep enough to shake the floor beneath him. Slowly, carefully, he raised his eyes, and there she was, the mother dragon, fully revealed this time. Her body filled the bay, wings folded tightly against the high ceiling, scales glimmering faintly like molten metal. Her claws rested on the metal floor, sharp enough to cut through steel. Her tail curled around the crates like a coiled serpent, but it was her eyes that held him still. Twin furnaces burning into him. The baby dragon turned toward her and chirped again. "Mother," it said, then turned back to him and whispered. "Friend." The janitor swallowed. His throat dry, his mind screamed at him to run. But his body did not move. He knelt on the floor, caught between fear and awe. The mother's head lowered slowly. Her snout stopped only a breath away from him. The heat of her breath washed over his skin. She spoke, her voice like thunder rolling through stone. "Human," she rumbled. "Why teach my child your tongue?" The janitor's mouth opened, but no words came. He thought of the truth. Because he was lonely. Because the baby reminded him of himself. Because it made him feel alive. But none of those answers seemed enough. Finally he whispered, "Because it asked, The mother's eyes narrowed. Her growl deepened. You think to shape it, to bend it with words. Her wings shifted slightly and the air rippled with heat. The janitor shook his head quickly. No, not to bend, to help, his voice cracked. He steadied it. Your child wanted to speak. It deserved a chance. The baby dragon pressed against his side, looking up at its mother with pleading eyes. Trust, it whispered. Safe. The mother's gaze shifted to her child, and for a moment the fire softened. Her claws scraped the floor as she shifted, lowering herself further until her massive head rested inches from both of them. The janitor's heart thundered in his chest. He could see every detail now, the scars on her scales, the sharpness of her teeth, the endless depth in her burning eyes. She could end him in a heartbeat. But she hadn't, not yet. She studied him in silence, the way predators study prey. But there was something else in her gaze, too. Something sharper than fear, curiosity. Finally she spoke again. You are weak among your kind. You clean their floors, carry their waste. Why risk for mine? The words struck him harder than any blade. She was right, he was nothing here. Invisible, forgotten, he swallowed hard. Because I know what it feels like, he whispered. His voice trembled, but he forced the words out. To be small, to be unseen, to have no one listen. Your child wanted a voice, I could not ignore that. The mother's eyes narrowed again. The heat rose, pressing against his skin. He thought for sure she would burn him alive. But then the baby dragon leaned closer to her, whispering softly, Friend, human friend. The silence stretched. Heavy as iron, the janitor's hands shook, sweat dripping down his neck. Then slowly the mother drew back, her massive eyes still locked on him. Her growl faded into a low rumble. You are strange, she said. Her voice was not warm, but it was no longer deadly. Strange. And dangerous. The janitor let out a shaky breath. He could barely stand, his legs felt weak. I don't want danger, he whispered. I only wanted to learn to live. The mother tilted her head. Her eyes flicked once more to her child, who chirped happily, repeating, Live, friend. Trust. The sound was clumsy, but the meaning was clear for the first time. The mother dragon closed her eyes. A long, heavy breath rumbled from her chest. Then she opened them again and spoke, her tone quieter but still sharp. If you harm it, if your kind seek it, I will burn this station and all upon it. The janitor's heart lurched. He nodded quickly. I would never, he whispered. I swear. The mother stared at him for a long, endless moment. Then she drew back into the shadows again, her massive body fading into the dark. The heat in the room lessened, but her presence remained, watching. The janitor sat back on his heels. Trembling, he looked at the baby dragon, who chirped and repeated proudly, Friend. He let out a shaky laugh, brushing his hand over its head. Yeah, he whispered. Friend. But deep in his heart he knew this was no longer a secret between just him and the baby. The mother had seen, had judged, and for now she allowed it. For now, and that made everything far more dangerous. The janitor had thought many times about leaving, about staying away from the cargo bay forever. He knew the risk, he knew one wrong word, one wrong step, and the mother dragon could end him before he even drew a final breath. But each night his feet carried him back anyway. The baby dragon had grown bolder now, no longer hiding in the shadows. It greeted him with chirps and words. Friend, it would say. Safe. Human friend? The janitor always smiled, though his eyes searched the corners because he knew the mother was there too, unseen but never gone. One night the air was hotter than before. The janitor could feel it prickling on his skin even before he opened the cargo bay door. When he stepped inside, the baby rushed to him, wings twitching with excitement. But this time the mother was not hidden. She stood tall in the open, wings half unfurled, her glowing eyes fixed on him. The janitor froze, his chest tightened. His legs felt heavy, he wanted to step back, to run, but he couldn't. The mother lowered her head slowly, and her deep voice filled the air. My child speaks, she rumbled. Words it should not know, your words, human words, the baby chirped proudly, hopping between them. Trust safe, friend, it said. Its voice cracked, but its meaning was clear. The mother's eyes narrowed. She studied the janitor with that same sharp, burning gaze. Why? She asked again. But this time her tone was different, less like a threat, more like a test. The janitor swallowed hard. His voice shook, but he forced himself to answer. Because no one should be alone, he whispered. Your child wanted to speak. It wanted someone to listen. I gave what I could. The silence after his words was long. The baby shifted anxiously, then pressed against his side as if to protect him. The janitor placed a hand on its scaled head. His heart thundered in his chest. I didn't plan this, he added. I didn't seek it out. I just couldn't walk away. The mother's eyes burned brighter. You are weak, she said. Your kind sees you as nothing, yet you gave strength to mine. Why? The janitor almost laughed, but it came out bitter. Because I know what it feels like, he whispered. I've been invisible my whole life, cleaning what others leave behind. Never heard, never seen. Your child reminded me of myself, and I couldn't let it stay silent. The mother's head tilted slightly, the air grew heavy. Then, to his shock, she closed her eyes when she spoke again. Her voice was not thunder. It was deep, soft, like molten stone cooling. You have given my child a gift. One our kind never asked for, a human tongue. A voice among your people. The janitor's hands tightened. He looked up, meeting her gaze. I didn't mean to offend, he said quickly. I only wanted it to have a chance. The baby chirped again, looking between them. Chance, friend? Live? The mother lowered her head until her massive snout nearly touched him. Her hot breath washed over his face. He thought she might burn him alive, but instead, she whispered something that froze him more than fire ever could. You have changed our future. The janitor blinked. His mouth dry. Future, he whispered. What do you mean? The mother did not answer immediately. Her eyes burned like suns. Her voice came low and certain. Until now, my kind has spoken only to our own, hidden in silence, feared by others. But now one of ours has spoken your tongue, and it will not be the last. The janitor's stomach twisted. He had not thought beyond the lessons, beyond the secret smiles of the baby. He had not imagined what it meant for an entire species to speak the words of humans. The baby chirped again, pressing its nose into his hand. Friend, it said, clear and proud. The janitor smiled weakly, stroking its head. Friend, he repeated. But his heart raced with questions. The mother's wings shifted, filling the bay with shadow. If you betray this bond, human, she rumbled. If your kind seeks to chain us, I will burn this station until nothing remains. The janitor's throat tightened. He nodded quickly. I won't betray it, he said. His voice was firm this time, steady. I promise. The mother's eyes narrowed. She studied him one last time, then slowly she drew back, her massive form retreating into the dark. The heat eased, though her presence lingered like fire in the air. The janitor let out a shaky breath. His legs nearly gave out beneath him. He looked at the baby dragon, who tilted its head, eyes glowing with pride. Promise, it whispered back. The janitor laughed softly, shaking his head. Yeah, he said. Promise, he stood, his knees still weak. He knew his life would never be the same. He had come to this station invisible, just a man with a broom. Now he was something else, something more. He was a teacher, a friend, maybe even a bridge, but he also knew the truth. He had stepped into something far greater than himself. A secret alliance, fragile as glass, balanced between trust and fire. And as he left the bay, the words of the mother echoed in his head, heavy with meaning. You have changed our future. Human. He walked the empty halls, pushing his cart as always. But for the first time in his life, he no longer felt invisible.